11:37, this is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne. Just a quick one on the Tiverton by-election. Pat has been in touch. Morning to you, Pat, saying Labour did not contest the seat as they knew they would not win, giving the Liberal Democrats the seat.
They did stand.
They did stand.
Because they got 120 votes or something, I think.
But they got 1,000, didn't they?
Oh, I don't know.
They got about 1,000.
It wasn't many.
But nowhere near enough. So they did run a candidate.
Yeah, and obviously the Labour faithful did vote to a certain extent, but not much at all.
Maybe they didn't campaign very hard. You could be right on that point, Pat. But anyway, keep your thoughts coming through. Newspapers for you. The Mail's reporting on the Rwanda story, saying the PM has urged critics to keep an open mind on the policy ahead of his meeting with Prince Charles.
And also on that, the Daily Express has an exclusive on a Strasbourg judge that has criticised the secrecy with which the European Court of Human Rights conducted itself over the Rwanda migrant flight ruling.
The Guardian says airport staff are going to vote on strike action as the threat of disruption to life in the UK widens.
And the drive for green fuel made from wheat and maize is to be relaxed as the Prime Minister wants the land to be used for growing food instead. The story in the Telegraph says it could affect our net zero pledges.
The Sun says the Queen is back in the saddle. She's riding again. A year after being told to quit. All comes despite her recent mobility issues. Well, she'll have fewer mobility issues if she's on the back of a horse.
Yeah, but hey, if she wants to,
and
she feels okay about it, that's all good.
Why not? Let's go through the papers with the editor of Spiked Online, Tom Slater, and the author and broadcaster, Nikki Hodgson. Morning to you both. Let's start with a cheery story, Tom. Rail strikes.
Yes, well, we might be closer to a deal.
Really?
The upbeat bit. So, bosses from Network Rail have suggested that whilst previously they were miles apart from the RMT in terms of some sort of arrangement, they're now metres apart, is what they're saying. A package being discussed which would involve a guarantee against compulsory redundancies, which was one of the core things that the RMT was seeking, and also some sort of arrangement on pay. It does seem like what percentage that is still something which is obviously being fought over the RMT.
They want 7%.
Around 7%.
But are they still talking then?
Its talks are ongoing, it seems like. I mean, the argument from the RMT is still that essentially Network Rail's wings are clipped by the Department for Transport, that because of the fact that Grant Shapps isn't giving them enough latitude to discuss this properly, that it's not happening. But it does seem like a deal maybe in the offing, or at least a lot closer than it was previously, so we might have avert any further action
disruption
in recent weeks.
Nikki, tell us about this amazing story of a swimming coach who saved a life.
Yeah, so this is about artistic swimmer Anita Alvarez, who's 25, and she was competing in a solo routine at the World Aquatic Championships when she fainted and she sunk to the bottom of the pool. There's these incredible pictures because it was a competition, so it was obviously...
So she fainted in the water?
She fainted in the water, sunk to the bottom of the pool, and then her swimming coach, Andrea Fuentes, who was watching, said that she couldn't get the message across to the lifeguards quick enough, so she jumped in herself and saved this amazing swimmer.
Important it is, even if you're a professional swimmer, actually, to have somebody watching you.
Absolutely. I mean, the picture's just absolutely startling, but apparently this isn't the first time that she's fainted, so this must be quite worrying for everybody around her watching it. It's kind of like second, third time.
The dramatic pictures of her being lifted out.
Absolutely.
She just looks like a complete limp body.
Yeah, she just kind of looks like a doll, doesn't she? But yeah, she apparently she fainted last year during an Olympic qualifier in Barcelona, and she was also rescued by Fuentes on that occasion.
So she either needs to give up swimming or always have somebody watching her at all.
Well, it seems that it needs to get to the bottom of why she's fainting, I suppose.
Or wear armbands.
I doubt that might disqualify her.
Yeah.
Send that bit away forward. Armbands, they're great.
Oh, Tom, now, this weird Alexa, I shouldn't have said it, should I? The Amazon device. The Amazon device, they've got weird plans for it, and this will divide people, because some people think it's spooky and other people think it's nice.
Yeah, so everyone we've been talking to about in the green room today about this, it seems to divide opinion. So this Amazon device, which will remain nameless, a new feature which is being suggested is that you would essentially be able to, say, upload a recording of a long dead loved one, which could then read bedtime stories to children, or again the voice of the assistant.
It learns how to use
that. It learns how to use that, mimic that voice.
Exactly, and I'm definitely in terms of the response on the sort of, this is quite creepy. And
really? See, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I find it creepy too. I suppose one of the things is, I don't know if I've got an old phone with a voice message from my dear departed dad on, and every so often I do go listen to it because I find it quite triggering. It's not an easy thing to go listen to. If I thought I had a device with him talking to me all the time, and I'd probably lose it, and I probably feel like it's being watched in a weird way as well. Maybe I'd behave better.
But it is being told off. But it's like, I suppose, it's one thing to have a record, it's another thing to always have it ventriloquise.
Yeah.
Yes, but then you can get your dad to tell you the weather. So I'm just stealing my
well, he did that anyway, so he's right. I could get him to do the things he used to do, which is, get an umbrella and stuff like that, which, again, I'm not very good at now.
You see, I'm up for that. And even on a novelty value, I sort of think, if my mum is thankfully still with us and will be for a very long time, but even getting her voice on it, I think it'd just be hilarious.
I told you before, I think, Christine Lampard, Christine Bleakley, TV presenter, said that she's got a very strong Northern Ireland accent, and she said she started talking to her
device.
The reason we're not able to say it is it activates devices all over the country when you say it. She said, and it started to impersonate her very, very strong Northern Ireland accent.
Really?
It started to speak to her in the same sort of way with the same inflections, and it really creeped her out. So they obviously can do this already, this mimicking.
Yeah.
With
Power if you want mimicry, I suppose.
You want your long lost granny to be reading a bedtime story to you.
I've changed mine to a man. Mine is a man.
Oh, I see. What's he called then? Still called the same name?
Still called the same thing.
Well, I find
switch
it
my
quite
sat nav to French sometimes because I find it quite interesting.
It's good. It's a good idea, isn't it? I find it quite offensive that all the assistants are women. I do find that.
Yes,
annoying.
it is.
So yeah.
I never thought of it like that, but
Is he a hunky man? Does he sound sort of
know.
hunky and male?
Well, he sounds male.
I might plug it in again then.
You want to try
I
it?
unplugged it because it kept misinterpreting what I was saying.
You just have to say, change your voice.
Oh really? You tell it to and
Yeah, and it changes to a man.
there you are. Weird. Very weird.
There you go. Nikki, witches.
Do you have a witch in your family history? I was thinking about this. I do actually apparently have some witches in my family. Quite partial to being called a witch as well. Think about that whatever you want. But this is actually, it's quite a serious story about how during the 16th century and then mid-18th century, there were lots of women, and some men actually, that were convicted of witchcraft and burned at the stake, mainly in Scotland actually, also in England but mainly in Scotland. And Scottish MSP Natalie Dunn has actually launched a consultation to repeal the convictions on a members' bill. So it's this idea...
What's the point?
Well, Nicola Sturgeon has already apologised to the families of the people that were... Yes, to the families of people that were convicted of witchcraft. And so, it's this idea that... Well, we know that we started doing this kind of reparations thing, haven't we, with people who were wrongly convicted of crimes in the past. So I know like the famous example is Alan Turing. But it's really, really interesting, and apparently there are some covens, and including the Witches of Scotland campaign group, that are very, very pro this happening. So I just find it so interesting. I mean, there were a lot of people, up to 6,000 people in Scotland convicted, so it is quite a number of people.
It's awful. When you look back on it, it is absolutely awful. However, I do sort of think, what's the point in pardoning someone who was killed 300 years ago?
Well, is it anachronistic as well to try and impose a modern view back on the past and say, okay, isn't it better just to say, well, we've learnt that probably isn't the best thing to do, and then move on?
No,
I don't know.
It's stronger than that, though. I mean, it was just plain evil and wrong and misogynistic.
It was totally misogynistic.
But if you think about the history of all kinds of injustices, politicians would do nothing but apologise for past historical wrongs.
Well, they do. They're meant to, aren't they? As we well know.
A ministry for apologies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Look, we just got time for a quick 1 minute on The Guardian, Tom, where David Lammy, among people, is now pro-Brexit, sort of.
Yes, so he's essentially saying Labour is not going to touch Brexit. Obviously, from David Lammy, you trust that about as far as you can throw him. The same David Lammy, I think the day after the Brexit vote, said this madness has got to stop and it needs to be overturned, who compared Tory Brexiteers to not just Nazis, but said they were worse than Nazis, famously, is now trying to say that Labour is actually in favour of Brexit. If nothing else, I mean, I wouldn't take his word for granted here by any stretch of the imagination. I think it does just show how, in terms of the public and in terms of a kind of question, Labour at least have to pretend to go along with it now, which I think is something of a victory, and just demonstrates how strong, the public support was behind Brexit, how everyone did want to move on from it.
Oh, it's very good that he's decided to say that he's now willing to accept a democratic vote 6 years ago.
It's only taken him 6 years to get there, but given how bad it was in the immediate aftermath and the 3.5 years of trying to get that over the line, at least it's progress.
Yeah. Okay. Tom, Nikki, got to leave it there. We'll see you in an hour. Thank you very much.